First dinner is super easy. It's just a good old-fashioned baked potato. Now you can add anything you want to these to make them tasty. I like to put some butter on the skin and some sea salt, wrap it in foil, and then I bake it in the oven at 450 until it's finished cooking. You can make these as simple, just baked potatoes, or if you have some veggies, it's fun to add those on top. I like adding broccoli to mine, so I had a bag of frozen broccoli, just roast it in the oven with some olive oil and spices, and then when your baked potatoes are done, just throw some butter, salt, and pepper in there. I topped mine with the cheese and the broccoli and these chili crisps. That's perfect. Next up is just a simple bean soup. Beans are so cheap to buy, and I like to just buy the can of Sun Vista pinto beans. And then for this one, I just throw in some olive oil in a pot with onions, garlic, tomatoes, and cilantro. Then I add in my rinsed beans. I add in a whole thing of veggie broth and then some seasonings, garlic powder, onion powder, oregano. I also add in a cube of the veggie bouillon and then a little bit of the sazon packets. If I said it wrong, I'm sorry. If you have a potato, dice that up and throw it in there for more flavor. Add some lime juice, and then if you can, you top it on top of some Mexican rice. If you don't have the rice, you could just eat it as soup. I also like to eat these with some buttered warm tortillas, flour tortillas. And again, if you don't have those, it's still good by itself, but if you do, it definitely adds to the fillingness of this meal. But either way, it's super cheap, and you can also top with some onions and cilantro for more flavor. And if you're blessed enough to have some salsa, throw that on there too. Now for this next one, I try to buy my frozen pizzas on sale. I found this Tony's cheese pizza for only $3, so I had to bring it home. I add veggies on top from whatever I have in the fridge, and sometimes I'll add ranch dressing. If not, you can just have a cheese pizza, and if you do have some lettuce and veggies and dressing, throw together a salad so you can have a full cheap meal of pizza and salad at home. It doesn't get more basic than a good old cheese quesadilla. So if you have some tortillas and any kind of cheese at home, don't underestimate the power of a quesadilla. If you're starving and you don't have much money or much to cook, you could just throw together as many quesadillas as you have tortillas, and there you go. You can just pair that with some fruit or some chips or whatever you have for a side. And since I did have an avocado, I threw together a quick little guacamole for a dip, and I do make my own salsa, so I have some leftover salsa in the fridge to dip as well. But if you have this, then you have a meal, and it's very cheap and it's easy, and usually kids like it as well. So quesadillas with some homemade guacamole and whatever you can throw on the side, and that's your dinner. For this next one, I just bought these 2 packets of cheddar broccoli rice from the Knorr brand, 2 for $1. And you just make it according to the package, but I like to fry in some onions and garlic first for extra flavor. And then I add in some extra broccoli. I have a frozen bag of broccoli. I'll throw that in there. If not, that's okay too. If you eat meat and you have like leftover chicken or rotisserie chicken, you could throw that in there as well. And then when it's done cooking, I also add some cheese on top. It seems really simple and basic, but it's super cheap. Only $2. It's $1 for 2 packets. And then if you do have the veggies at home, you could even throw spinach in there if that's all you have. But it makes a good pot. I make 2 at a time, and I'll make a pretty good sized pot. And then we just eat this, like I said, with some cheese on top. Throw some hot sauce on there if you have to make it more fun. But this is a really cheap and really easy dinner. One big benefit of being vegetarian is that it's actually cheaper because you don't need to buy meat for all your meals. But especially like things like pasta, that's a very cheap, easy dinner, and you can just add whatever you want to make it more filling. This one I made my own sauce I just fried some onions and garlic. I added some tomato paste. I added some pasta water, and I don't ever buy heavy whipping cream because it's so expensive. So I just use half and half. You can use whatever cheese you have. I was blessed enough to be gifted this really good cheese, so I threw that in there, and I also had some fresh basil I grew. But if you don't have that, you could just throw the regular Parmesan cheese on top. You can use your seasonings to make more flavor, and then serve with some garlic bread you can make homemade, or whatever veggie you have on hand, and that's dinner. Next, super cheap and easy meal are bean tostadas. This is again those cheap cans of pinto beans. I just throw those into a pot. I drain and rinse them, and I like to make them my own flavor without using, the canned juice. So I just add some seasonings to that. I fry in an onion and garlic. I add a couple chili de arbol, and then I fill it with water and let that cook up. until they're nice and soft. And then I mash them down to make them into refried beans. You can make your own salsas if you have veggies at home. It's so much cheaper than buying salsa. So I just make some very simple salsas that you can find on all my videos because I make it all the time. And then instead of buying those already hard shells, I just fry up some little corn tortilla shells and then throw those beans on top. You can have it like that. You could just add cheese. If you have lettuce and tomato, add that. If you have some salsas or sour cream, it'll make it even more filling. Or you can just have good old bean tostadas. And this last one here, again with the pasta, it's a super easy meal, and if you don't have a lot of money, you can just be very creative with it. If you have any veggies at home, it's easy to roast them in the oven. This one I did some asparagus in the oven, and then I boiled my noodles. I like to add olive oil while they sit when I make the sauce so they don't stick together. I fried up some onion and garlic, and I just used a big jar of tomato sauce that I had. Not tomato sauce, I'm sorry, it's pasta sauce. Not a can of tomato sauce. And then I add water into the jar to get the rest of the sauce out and cook that down. Add in whatever spices you feel, and then you have a good pasta sauce. You can also add in some half and half to make it more creamy if you'd like. I added a little cream cheese instead, and I threw in some spinach to make it more healthy because I had that. And then add in your noodles, and you have a nice little pasta dish. This one I wanted it into a bake, so I threw some cheese on top, baked it in the oven, made a small salad, and that was dinner.